Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence. Today I want to do a general tarot and oracle reading for our collective here, so I trust that if you clicked in, that this message is for you. So I wanted to get like a general sense of where this reading is meant to take us today, so I pulled some oracle cards and we got gratitude and adversity. And the message that is meant to come through is already coming through so strongly to me, which is, one, of course, we're being reminded and nudged towards more gratitude. And there's a hummingbird on this card, so that may resonate for you. Or if you see a hummingbird, that may be your internal sign to think about what there is to be grateful for. And there's also an aspect of this card that speaks on gratitude regardless of external circumstances, and being able to find the abundance in any situation. Because wherever there's abundance, there's gratitude, and wherever there's gratitude, there's abundance. And they do exist at all times. It's like a matter of you seeing it and tapping into that feeling of it. And it really is so simple as a choice, rather than due to some external circumstance that now grants you permission to feel gratitude. So I hope that we can remember that inner knowing of the empowerment of being able to feel this at any time, like the power at our fingertips, right? To tap into abundance and gratitude, because our ego can so often cause us to believe that it's coming from something external to us. And I also want to talk about the difference between happiness and contentment, where, and I know these words are often used interchangeably, but I'm defining here that happiness is something that we receive like from something external, like something made us happy. Whereas contentment is a true inner fulfillment. I mean, you may use the word happy like, oh, I'm just happy for no reason because I choose to be, or I'm happy because I'm able to feel gratitude and abundance. So you may use the word happy as I'm defining it here to mean contentment, but what I'm getting at here is this kind of difference between that which comes external to us and that which is an inner feeling of fulfillment and is unswayed by your external reality or circumstances, which is what I define here as contentment. So, and you know, a lot in the manifestation space, you are constantly reminded that your circumstances don't matter. Your physical reality does not matter as it relates to your ability to manifest and your deservingness of that which you wish to manifest. So gratitude is the portal to abundance, which is the portal to really manifesting the reality you want. And it starts not in the physical, it starts in this embodiment of this energy that you are able to then, identify with that timeline and then navigate through your life in that energy, which then will attract that actual physical reality and the outcome that you're trying to manifest. So I hope that you can already just recognize in what I've been saying so far, just the power of that gratitude card and living in appreciation for everything that you have, and then knowing that more good things will come as a result of that. And then with the adversity card, this is also tying in so beautifully with the gratitude card, because this is about how challenges are inevitable in life. And we don't even really come to this earth hoping that we'll go through minimal challenges. It's not until we get to earth and we have an ego and we judge things as good or bad, which is a normal part of the human experience, but it's not until we're on earth with an ego that we actually want to avoid challenge, that we very purposefully avoid challenge, avoid discomfort, avoid unpleasant feelings or emotions or experiences, and we move more towards good things or things that feel pleasant or things that feel comfortable. or things that bring us joy or pleasure, right? So that is a complete normal human experience and a way to approach life. But when you are able to zoom out and take a more spiritual, higher perspective, you see that in the context of evolution, I mean, this could even apply in terms of our biological evolution. Like an animal that's being preyed upon or that's fighting for their life, of course they don't want that experience, right? But then there's the concept of survival of the fittest, and how that this doesn't really apply to humans necessarily in that literal life or death way. But, there's the concept of those who are strong and those who, evolve the traits and the skills to survive difficulties are those that are still living on this earth today. Whatever species or whatever animals or whatever, like families, like the bloodlines, the ancestral lines of animals that were able to survive difficulties, like those were the ones that were able to live on and procreate. And so from a biological, literal perspective, this holds true, right? Well, it's the same exact thing for our spiritual evolution. Our souls are here to grow and develop and to experience more love and light, even on an earth plane with a strong ego and the need to survive, right? Like those who are able to thrive in a world that sometimes is not always set up for easy success and thriving, right? Like those are the strongest souls that have evolved the most. So I hope that analogy kind of helps you recognize just how powerful it is to come to this planet and to be faced with adversity, to be faced with challenge, and to see that as a gift. Like when you zoom out far enough and you're out of your ego and you're out of the emotion, like the negative emotions that you may feel from your challenges, or the egoic narratives that you have about it, when you zoom out and you're not kind of immersed in that trauma, you really do see all of your challenges as a gift. And I just want to give a quick note as to how this plays out on a day-to-day, because I really want to make sure we're giving ourselves grace. Because as we go through a day and maybe you have a moment of frustration, maybe you're driving and you get angry or you get frustrated, whether you're getting frustrated at somebody else who made a mistake, or you made a mistake and someone's getting frustrated at you, and then that makes you frustrated that they're not being compassionate. There's infinite ways in which we feel these negative, uncomfortable emotions as part of the experiences, and driving on the road is a pretty common example that we've all experienced, right? So when you are in this moment, it's really important to recognize that this is completely normal, that you're going to experience these emotions. So it's important that as we learn and get more familiar about, just how valuable our challenges are meant to be, that we also give ourselves grace in the present moment and allow ourselves to feel the negative emotions as they come, while also not allowing the ego to spiral it into some really damaging or unproductive story. So you can see that there's like a fine balance in this. So let's say you're on the road and you're getting frustrated. In the moment, there's this negative emotion due to this experience. And so the first step is really to just understand and have the awareness to know that you're having this reaction. And this could go for any experience you have in life. Maybe you get into a fight with someone, or maybe you endure a serious trauma, not just like somebody cutting you off on the freeway or something. But ultimately, there needs to be some kind of self-awareness to recognize that you're having this experience, because then that pulls you kind of out of it and just already gives you that outside perspective, like one level removed. And so recognizing and understanding that you're having this response and why that might be, and being able to get really clear on exactly what it is that you're feeling and experiencing. However, if you stop there, it's very common that even with self-awareness, the ego may spiral you because you're continuing to think about what's happening to you. And this includes the egoic story that puts us in victimhood of, being so self-aware about what you're going through that it becomes your story, and it becomes something that, well, I'm like this because of this. Like, you have a thorough awareness and understanding of it, but it's not actually serving you because you're stuck in it. You're stuck in that kind of victimhood of it. So that's why that's only the first step, to become aware and understand it. Whereas the second step is to actually be able to regulate yourself and to be able to express it in healthy ways. And this, we can go so many different ways with this, but if you're being cut off on the freeway, if you're alone in your car, maybe you need to talk to yourself and say, that's okay, we all make mistakes, or whatever, like, to just kind of get you back on track. I find that speaking the words is also way more powerful than just trying to think positive or trying to think your way towards an outcome. And that's because your thoughts can spiral so much faster than your voice can. If you think about it, I mean, your thoughts will run even subconsciously, like without you even recognizing, the experience of having a thought, and then you're like, oh, that's not a very nice thought. Like, I don't want to think that way. We do this with speaking too. We'll say something and then we'll say, well, that wasn't very nice, I shouldn't say that. But our thoughts will spiral on, and like those negative, unproductive thoughts that we don't want, it's so much easier for them to go unnoticed. And so that's why I think speaking is a great way, because it's much more solidified, and the voice waves are actually stronger than your thought waves. So that's why they say in manifesting, it's best to speak your affirmations, because now it has a sound, and that sound will vibrate to a much more powerful degree than if you were to just think those thought waves in your mind. And of course, thinking positive thoughts is of course powerful and helpful, but if we're comparing thinking to speaking, the speaking can be really beneficial. So in this moment of adversity, challenge, trauma, thinking your way out of it may very well be something that helps you, especially like if there's people around and you don't really want to talk to yourself. So, but whatever you need to do in the moment to kind of regulate and talk yourself through it, that is a crucial second step, because like I said, the awareness and the understanding alone does not necessarily point you towards a solution. The solution actually comes when you regulate and you think to yourself, okay, what is the best way for me to get back to center? But also to know that we can't rush the regulation process. And so it is important to allow the time for that first step of being aware and understanding, and also the expressing that kind of comes in between of what is the healthiest way to express this. As we practice this skill, we become better at hopefully expressing it after or as we regulate, rather than before in a reactive kind of egoic way. And so just like meditation, just like all of the routines that we work towards, in building better habits, this is a practice just like any of those other things. And so there has to be this element of grace as well, so that we don't spiral into shame of, oh, I didn't handle that well, or, oh, I'm feeling upset and I shouldn't be letting that make me feel upset, right? Like, we don't want to compound the shame of how we feel. We want to just feel what we feel and then do our best in every single moment to regulate it. So with the adversity card, we're able to take this zoomed out view and see the gifts in the challenges and know that we're always being taught a valuable lesson. And sometimes it takes getting back to that regulated space to really tap into that inner knowing. And so the better that we're able to regulate, the better and the sooner and the easier we're able to get back to that inner peace, inner calm, and inner knowing that this is actually a gift. Even the adversity, even the challenges are a gift. So the card says, the greatest lessons are learned from the storms. So if you can even look back right now at some adversity or trauma, or even just a challenge or a difficult, negative, or uncomfortable experience, and maybe you want to do a journaling exercise or just think your way through this, or speak through it, either with yourself or with someone else, whatever helps you process this, you can take that zoomed out perspective and really go through this exercise. And it may feel difficult at first, especially depending on if there's still residual negative emotions that you have about it. And honestly, the negative emotions, there's knowledge that emotions only last for 90 seconds when you're actually focusing on the emotion itself. It's really the mind that propagates the egoic story and the narrative we have about that emotion that causes us to days, months, years later still be kind of fixated on it and still be feeling those negative emotions over and over. It's really because the ego has, like I said in other readings, propagated, it's watered the weeds. And so, while it only takes 90 seconds for that emotion to exist, and it will dissipate, if your ego is constantly watering the weeds, then you're going to constantly be getting new weeds sprouting, and that emotion is going to keep popping up over and over. And so you very well may be in this kind of habit of thinking those negative narratives that then cause the negative emotion to come back over and over. And so it feels like you've not healed from it, or it feels like you're still processing the emotions about it. But in actuality, it's just because your ego is causing those emotions to come up repeatedly. It's like how they say neurons that fire together, wire together. It's like the more that you think a certain thought, which then prompts a certain emotion, and especially when this is happening on a foundation of some belief, some limiting belief, whether conscious or subconscious. But the more that you think that thought and feel that emotion repeatedly, the neural grooves become so deep and ingrained that it becomes something so easy and familiar to you. And so then that just kind of spirals us into doing more of it, because that's what's familiar, that's what's comfortable, that's what's easy for us to continue doing. And the brain does not want to change. I mean, evolutionarily, it takes a lot of resistance to change what's already been established, right? Those neural grooves. So the brain is going to continue doing the habits that will pose the least amount of resistance. And so that's why it takes a lot of practice to rewire. But we all have the ability, I mean, we know this from neuroplasticity, that we do have the ability to change how we think about things. And so when you're able to rewrite your story and change the narrative to one that's more of love and light rather than the ego, you are now able to feel better about what you've gone through. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but if you can do this exercise and think back at and maybe you want to pick something that's really easy, something that happened a long time ago that you don't really have a lot of emotions about anymore, and you can see clearly now from this, from the time that has granted us this zoomed out perspective, that, oh, I learned a really valuable lesson from that difficult experience. Like at the time, I thought that the world was ending, or I thought that I felt so disappointed, but then I realized that this wonderful thing came out of that. So the more that we do this, the more that we learn to think this way, the better we're going to be able to do it in the future. The less time it will take for us to get to that conclusion, because it will just become wisdom that is embedded within us. We just know that this is how life works, and this is the truth of life. And the more that you can practice that truth and really show up every day knowing that every challenge, every trigger is a gift, is an opportunity for you to practice this, then suddenly we have an abundance of opportunities to grow and evolve our soul. And that's wonderful and magical. So we also got the oracle card contemplation. So again, just pointing us towards taking this time to really think about the adversity that you have experienced in life and allowing that to be the portal into gratitude. And again, giving yourself grace, because if there are more recent or more heavy experiences, understand that your brain just simply has a habit of thinking this way about it, and that it's going to take time. It may take time, it may not. Once you become aware of this, you may be able to practice it and really, bounce out of that old narrative pretty fast and bounce back. But for some of us, it may take time. And I also think there's an aspect of how you think it will go, it will go. So if you want to overcome an old way of thinking about something, if you want to overcome a past adversity that you know that you don't have the healthiest beliefs about, then just simply believe that you can, and that you can do it effortlessly. And that's the power of, your thoughts and your beliefs, and, leverage them and use them to work in your favor. And so with this contemplation card, not only are we being called to contemplate these past moments of adversity and really get into the habit of seeing the beautiful lessons learned and how those were gifts, but we're also zooming out from that contemplation and instilling the belief in us that I do have the ability to overcome this adversity. I do have the ability to see it as a gift, and I do have the ability to do this going forward. And I do have gratitude running abundantly through me. And this can be effortless if I will it to be. If I choose for it to be that way, then it will be so. When people end their prayers as, and so it is, that's like another really great way to lock in that belief, to lock in that frequency. So I was just called to kind of take this channeled message to that next level and speak on this. And if you're thinking that this feels like delusional or just kind of woo-woo, and we're literally fighting against our brain, our biology, there's literal legitimate neural grooves, and how can we possibly just will that to be easy? And I just really want to make clear the point that the power of neuroplasticity is really greater than we may understand it to be. And the beliefs that we have really does impact our ability. I mean, they're like embedded, right? The beliefs that we have is part of our neuroplasticity. So if we change our beliefs about how difficult it is to overcome neuroplasticity, then we will see that result. And there have been studies on the power of thought. I mean, just look at the power of placebo, right? We think that we're being healed, and so we are healed, right? And if you also look into Joe Dispenza's work and his books, you may already be familiar with it, but I mean, people heal from cancers and sicknesses because they choose to believe that they can heal. And of course, I'm not saying this to gloss over the severity of certain medical injuries or anything like that. I'm just saying this to touch on the power of the mind and our beliefs and what we believe and think about our challenges, as well as what we believe about how easy it is to overcome them. Now, of course, it takes repetition to ingrain and instill a belief. So this is just something we have to continuously commit to. So over and over, we choose to believe a certain belief. We show up every day. We show up throughout that day multiple times. I mean, you can think about a belief 100 times in a day, right? Like you can have exponential growth even just in one day of instilling a new belief. But it does take that repetition to form that pathway in a way that's going to be sustainable going forward. So I wanted to pull one tarot card, and we got the Justice. So I feel like this is so fitting of just, we're talking about our mind and our beliefs, and the Justice is, it's got the sword and it's got that kind of air intellect energy to it. So another powerful reminder of the importance of our mind and our thoughts. And it's also touching on the fact that justice will always come to be, right? Like karmic justice, or just the general concept of cause and effect is at play here. So at the beginning of the reading, when we were talking about gratitude being our portal towards more abundance, and there's an element of the cause and effect of that, and there's also an element of that kind of karmic justice and fairness that results from it, right? Like when you act out of honesty and integrity and truth, we talked about what is the truth here. The truth is that our challenges are beautiful lessons learned. The truth is that we can rewire our beliefs. And when we act in that way, we do get this beautiful cause and effect that brings this karmic justice to us. And so, it's kind of like if you've been wronged, you're going to get relief from that. But it's not even really like an external thing that's coming in and saving you. This is about your internal perception, how your consciousness is navigating through life. When you change your perception of the world and raise the frequency of your internal world, you have alchemized that justice for yourself. Like you have brought things full circle, you have brought things into balance. So those negative emotions and experiences are now being met with gratitude and abundance. And that's the beautiful balance of that duality that we live in, that we can alchemize these more negative or bad things, in quotes, because that's our ego's judgment of them, but we can alchemize them into pure love and light. And that's what gratitude brings us to, that abundance. So I love this justice card kind of rounding things out and speaking on the importance of our mind and our thoughts, and just the value of that in this overarching journey towards balancing the dualities of the experiences we face and using them as a portal into the abundance that is always there for us. So I'm going to leave the reading here. I hope that something resonated for you. Thank you so much for being here and listening. And as always, I would love to hear from you in the comments what may have resonated, what breakthroughs you may have had. And every like and subscribe means so much to me as we're just starting to form this collective. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.